Hey guys, it's Mark Ling here, and in this video we're going to look at improving sales copy conversions by answering these 16 questions. Now, these 16 questions can be used to improve email copy for not necessarily a singular email, but an email follow-up sequence that you have that might be promoting a product. It can be used for a full sales letter. It can be used for video sales letters and definitely webinar scripts and so forth. This is not a video that shows you exactly step by step how to write an entire sales letter. It's part of your planning process though, and part of your critiquing process if you are critiquing some of your own copy. You want to make sure that these 16 questions are answered, and if they are not, then you could be losing sales where you really shouldn't be. Okay, so what led me to creating these 16 questions was that earlier today I was critiquing a member of my team's sales copy. They were writing some sales copy for a diabetes documentary series that we filmed. We spent about 3 years filming this documentary series, and we've written some sales copy for it. And I looked at it and I thought, this is great, you've done an excellent job. But then I noticed as I went through these 16 questions that there were some of them weren't answered, and it made me think, okay, look, you've done a great job with how you've written the copy, the way it's written, and it's intriguing and all of this, but by not answering all of these questions, it's not going to convert to sales as highly as it should. And what we need to do is make these part of your process. Answer these questions before you even get started writing a script. So without further ado, I'm going to reveal to you what these questions are. All right, so first of all, you want to know, who is your audience? Who are you actually writing to? So let's say, for instance, you were trying to sell a product on dating and relationships advice for women. You'd probably want to work out and do some market research, maybe jump on some forums and blogs and find out, who are these women? You might find out, oh, actually they are largely women aged 45 plus who have been in relationships, but either A, they've never been married, or B, they've been married and are now divorced and are single. So your initial assumptions might be that they are women that have never had a boyfriend yet and they're aged 18 to 25, and you get that a totally different vibe for how you'd write your sales copy once you realize that no, they're mostly age 45 plus. That's in that niche. What happens if you are selling something else like women's handbags? You might think that most women buying handbags are fashion conscious, and that the high fashion, the best looking handbags are the ones that sell best. But then when you do a bit of market research on a place like AliExpress and you look and see which are the best selling handbags, you'll notice it's not always the best designs that make the most sales. So you may need to look into that a bit further. Maybe your audience doesn't have the best taste after all, but they think they do. Who knows? What the key is that you use every method that you possibly can to find out a little bit more about who you are writing to, so that you can build up a little bit of an avatar of that person, so that when you write some sales copy, you know who you're talking to. You can have a bit of a picture about who you're speaking directly to. You want to know, what does my market desire, or what problems are they looking to overcome? For instance, let's say it was a weight loss product. Then your market might desire to lose belly fat. What problems are they looking to overcome? Maybe it's stubborn belly fat, or maybe it's that they want to lose it without going through headaches and migraines from quitting sugar, or without having to count calories and stuff like that. Maybe you're promoting a dog training product and they want to have a well-behaved dog. That's what they desire, and they want to have more fun with their dog. Problems they're looking to overcome might be, maybe their dog digs, maybe it barks at people, chewing, bolting out the front door, pulling on the lead. Maybe they're disobedient around other people. Maybe they're aggressive towards children or people or other dogs. You're going to have to go through and do a bit of market research, find out what problems they're looking to overcome, because you're going to want to bring those up in your sales copy somewhere. You're going to want to know what's the main hook of what your entire product and program is all about. In terms of a main hook, I like to think of it this way. I like to think, what's the what's the desire or that we are going to help with, desire slash problem that they're going to overcome. So you want to think of what that is, and what's unique about how they're going to overcome it. Okay, so for instance, how to lose weight by eating donuts. So what's going to make them curious, about it? That doesn't need to be your big, how do I say it? It doesn't have to be the main premise of your product, doesn't have to be the hook. It's more the one-liner that's going to get them to open an email, that's going to get them to read the rest, that's going to get them to your sales copy. Or it might be the headline of your sales copy. It is not or the first line of your sales copy, but it is not necessarily what is going to be the main big promise of your sales copy. Doesn't have to be the hook. So there are a couple of types of hooks. One, it can be a big promise. It can be lose weight while eating donuts, while the main premise of that product might be intermittent fasting or the every other day diet, right? That could be the main mechanism. But what's the main hook that makes people curious? Let's say you're promoting a product to do with stopping insomnia. Maybe it's a self-hypnosis track. Then your main hook could be nothing to do with the product itself. It could be why cats don't get insomnia. Okay, why cats don't get insomnia. That might make someone open the email. You could have something to say about cats, but then lead them into you might have a way of transitioning into your self-hypnosis copy. So, but what's going to hook them in? The key though also is that hook better hook in somebody that is got a good chance that they will be a prospect for your product. Because if you hook in the wrong people, like let's say if I wrote why Donald Trump doesn't XYZ, and then a whole lot of political people open that email rather than people looking to lose weight, then I have defeated the purpose of getting the right people in. So it's got to be the right people. Okay. Secondly, another way of writing a hook though, let's say if you were to include your product in it, let's say it was a self-hypnosis track to stop insomnia, then it could be something like stop insomnia by listening to this 15-minute audio track. You've got to have to shorten that up though, because it's a little bit long. If it was an email subject line, weird audio track stops insomnia, if that could be a subject line, say. Or 15-minute audio track to stop insomnia. Okay? Stop insomnia with this 15-minute audio track, something like that. You just got to know what roughly is your main hook to this. What's your big promise? The big promise. Write a best-selling novel in as little as 6 weeks with this turbo speed writing method. I'm just making this up here, but it's the big promise, maybe within a time frame, maybe not, or if it's not within a time frame, then it might be without something that they would ordinarily have to do. Now, I'm not saying you have to put every single one of these things word for word how you write it in your notes into your sales copy, and they don't necessarily go in this order of what I'm doing things, but by having answers to these questions, you're going to write so much better sales copy. And you need to know when you read the sales copy that the hook and the big promise, they've got to come somewhere relatively early in the copy. Otherwise, people won't keep reading, and that's quite important. You've got to also know what makes this different from anything else that I've already seen before. So people may have already seen stuff before, and if it feels like it's the same, then they're going to lump you in with the rest of the other products of that type, and then, well, unless they're really urgently looking to buy that second, they are probably going to leave. But if you can make them feel like, actually, you can't actually even get this anywhere else. This doesn't exist anywhere else. This is a world first, for instance. Then it's unique in some way. Then it's going to be easier for you to sell this. So let's say it was a dog training product, and you were to teach a specific triangulation method or something, or a clicker method, or a something. Like, what makes it different than everything else? You've got to make notes about anything and everything that makes what you have done different than everyone else out there. I've got some quick notes on this. So What's unique about the way in which you deliver it to the customer? What's something that you can teach them in a very short space of time that'll make them see why your product will be a game changer for them? For instance, you could, let's say we've got a product called Infatuation Scripts. I promote it as an affiliate. I'm also a co-owner of that particular product. And with Infatuation Scripts, one of the keys came down to some research by Rutgers University that found out that men were much more likely to choose and settle down with the woman that they felt infatuated with than, say, a woman who ticked all the boxes and was supposedly the perfect woman for them. So in a singular line, we were able to state infatuation is more important than ticking all the boxes when it comes to men and love. All right? So, and then in this, say, the ad copy promoting that product, within the first line, I'll say something like, men don't fall in love for logical reasons. They fall for the woman who makes him feel the powerful emotion of infatuation. And then we go on to explain in more detail, and it works and converts well. Okay, so where were we? What makes this different? What's in it for me? So what makes this highly relevant to me personally? Like, what are all your sub benefits as well as your main benefit? Anything. Usually I like to look at the 7 deadly sins at this point. So things like greed and sloth and all of these things, like, is there a way that this can help me increase my... Actually, I'm just going to pause this while I look up the 7 deadly sins again. Okay, so the 7 deadly sins, they are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. So lust, is this... You look at the offer and go, is this in some way going to make people more attractive to the opposite sex? If it is, right, just put in your notes a little sentence why. Gluttony, does it allow them to, like, have all that they can, all that they want when otherwise they couldn't, like lose weight while eating donuts? Is there greed? Is there any way that it helps make them more wealthy? Sloth, can they be lazy using your method? If so, jot it down in your notes because it should enter your sales copy. Wrath, that's more about like trying to get back at people, I guess, or anger. I would normally, I guess, go past that one and look more at envy. Envy, does it make will it make other people jealous? Like such and such will be so jealous when you XYZ. Jot that down in your notes. Pride, will it make you more proud of yourself? Because of what you've achieved. If so, jot down what's going to make it so that it increased. Mention why it's going to increase their status and so forth. And jot that down in your notes because these what's in it for me's will improve your conversions. And then where's the proof of the concept itself that you've got? Your concept may have proof, as in you might be able to look up some scientific studies that prove what you have to say. Maybe you'll have testimonials and success stories already. Maybe you might have an endorsement, like you'll get somebody to look it over and review it, like a doctor or someone that's a professional in the area that you are providing it, and they'll be able to give like you have a section of don't just take my word for it, here's what the experts have to say, and then you'll get a quote or two from a professional. Like there's lots of ways of providing proof of concept. The easiest way is just looking up scientific studies that might prove it, but there are other ways, obviously, as well. And then you've got to say, why should I trust you? Generally, that's where you're going to probably have to have some kind of story, whether it's your own or whether it's just you're talking in an empathetic way that makes them realize that you know what they're going through and you know how frustrating it is and that you actually care. And it can even sometimes be a made-up story or something like that, where you're talking about like for instance, Jill went ahead or Jill has a dog who is a bit frustrating. He's a lot of fun. Jill really enjoys like taking the dog for runs and all of this, but she can't stop a dog from chewing shoes whenever shoes are around, and also from digging up the lawn, and yet She has to let the dog run around outside sometimes by itself. So this is what I said to Jill. I'm just making this up, by the way, off the top of my head, but the key is that you want to be able to emphasize that you understand their problem. And if you do have a story of your own that relates to them, then a nightmare story that you resolved using your method, then that's ideal. That you or someone else did. People want to know, why haven't I succeeded before? You've got to make a list of all the reasons why people don't do well with this, because they need to believe that, okay, I haven't done well before, but this is the reason why I'm going to succeed this time, because before I haven't had X, Y, and Z that your product provides. So you've got to make a big list of reasons why you haven't succeeded before. For instance, with dog training, if you've ever tried yelling at your dog or using punishment-based approaches, or rubbing your dog's nose in urine isn't going to tell your dog why peeing outside is a good idea. It doesn't work, and it actually ruins the relationship between you and your dog. For instance, or it might be counterintuitive. Maybe everyone's been taught the alpha dog approach, and you might say, you haven't succeeded before if you've ever tried to be the alpha dog in your pack. While that advice has proved helpful for 50 to 60% of dog owners, it's not 100% correct, and that's why it doesn't work for everybody. Here's why, and then you explain the good and the bad about the alpha dog approach and why it doesn't always work. And then people will go, yeah, that's my dog, I'm in the other 40%. Okay, so there's that. All right, so who or what is to blame? People feel a lot better when they realize that it's someone else's fault. It's not their fault. They are not under attack as they read your sales letter or watch your video sales letter. It's like, yeah, no, it's not my fault. It's not my fault I'm overweight. It's this fast food industry that is constantly putting out, not only are they putting out processed foods, but they're putting out commercials that make it seem like their processed foods are healthy when actually they're causing people to get addicted and gain weight. It's not my fault. It's theirs. And it's the government's fault for putting all of this stuff, these fast foods, into our schools, into our canteens. I'm just making the stuff up. I'm just saying that someone else is to blame. So you want to know who or what is to blame. Who's that enemy? And why is now the best time in the history of the world for this offer to exist? I mean, it may not be. You may not have an answer to this, but if you do, it really does help. For instance, let's say I was selling a product on how to make apps for mobile phones. Well, in the past, it's been really hard to make apps because you used to have to know how to do coding, or you had to use these limited sort of builder apps that could only build certain types of apps. But now, thanks to the App Builder 2020, you can actually build any type of app within the space of a day that can either, one, be used for clients for doing question and answer type things for restaurants. Two, it can be used for computer games. There's a special WYSIWYG code that is used that draws into a pool of 2,600 programmers' code that has never before been assembled all into one place, that allows you with a drag and drop and push of a button to create apps more quickly and effectively than ever before. This never used to be available to the general public. Okay, I just made that up off the top of my head, and that is not a product that exists, unfortunately. It'd be great if it did. But if there is some sort of reason why now's the best time for this offer to exist, then state it. Let's say you've got a product on how to rank highly in the search engines, and Google has just done a big algorithm change. Then you can now say, thanks to Google's Leopard update, let's say they called it Leopard or whatever, there is now a new opportunity to rank highly in the search engines that didn't exist before. Here's why. This new update, in the old days, Google used to weight very highly backlinks and links from other people's websites. The number of links from other people's sites to your site used to be the key factor in getting a high ranking. But now that some people are gaming the system, Google has also introduced this other factor, which includes, whatever it might be, social proof from Facebook or other things. And then you'd build that into your copy. Okay, so if there's anything that makes now the best time, definitely make sure that you note that down. How does it work? How does your actual product itself work? Do they listen to a 15-minute audio track? Do they watch a documentary series and get a bunch of notes and follow the recipes? Do they implement a step-by-step method that you give them? Like, how does it actually work? And if possible, turn it into a thingified way, like how to win your ex back by sending tiny little text messages. The thing is the text messages. Like, try to think of a way to compartmentalize this all into a sentence or two, preferably one sentence, and so people understand how it works. And how do I get started? Well, somewhere in your copy you're going to have to let them know that to get started they access your members area, and then they go to this and they do this and they do this, or they need to go and click the add to cart button at the bottom of the page. Simply enter in your details and you'll be taken to a private members area where you can have instant download access to this program, or where we will enter your details below, and we will, within the next 4 to 6 days, we will be shipping you your AbFlex 2000 or whatever it is that if it's a physical product. They've got to know step by step though how to get started. Spell it out to them. What do I have to lose? Well, if there's a money back guarantee, you can certainly remove the risk you got to note down all the things that they might think that they have to lose. 1, their money. 2, their time. They might be worried about wasting a whole lot of time on this. 3, their pride. They don't want to buy this big expensive product and then find out that their spouses and friends are like, I told you so, it didn't work, or something like that. Like, think of all the things that they'll be thinking, what do I have to lose? And you're going to have to find a way to overcome those things in your copy. Okay, so let's say they're worried that they'll embarrass themselves in front of your friends. Then you have the opposite in your copy. You'll say, just imagine how proud you're going to be when your friends see how well behaved your dog is after following the Brian's clicker dog training method, say. So you want to overcome these objections in your copy. What other objections may your customer have beyond what I just stated? Like, they could be not so much worried about what they have to lose. Like, they might actually feel like, yeah, it's likely to be reasonable value. They're not. But what about so money back guarantee might not be enough. They might be just thinking, I can't afford this. Like, this is just too expensive. And then you've got to also break down then why this is super high value and it's actually more expensive not to own this product and go through all the problems that are going to occur by not having it than to actually own it. Like, you've got to make it feel like the value of the product is inconsequential compared to the price of the product is inconsequential compared to the value. There may be other common objections, like how long does it take for this thing to work? I'm worried that this is going to take way too long and that I'm going to give up in the process. Or there may be other worries and objections. You just make a big list and try and overcome them. And what are their fears and frustrations? Like, they may be scared in a weight loss program of that they're going to starve themselves and that they just can't actually have the willpower to do it, and they're frustrated that people peddling weight loss products don't understand where they are coming from and that this is much, much harder than what people realize, or something like that. Like, there could be some other fears and frustrations that if you can jot those down, you're going to make a much better job of your copy. And these are the questions that need answering. I know that there can be more to the structure of a sales letter and so forth as a whole. Like, you might put in like why like the scarcity, like reasons why they should buy right now. That should be included in any sales copy, and other little bits and bobs. But for the most part, this covers, you answer all of these questions inside your sales copy, and chances are it's going to be a winning sales letter or a winning email promotion sequence and so forth. So anyway, I hope that you found that this particular video to be helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everybody.